All that we're going to be looking at this morning is tied to one main idea, and that is to listen. Listening is important. We need to seek to understand what is going on around us. A couple of quotes for you. Ernest Hemingway said, "I like to listen." It's coming. There we go. I like to listen. I have learned a great deal from listening carefully. Most people never listen. And the next one, there we go. Listening is active. At its most basic level, it's about focus. It's about paying attention. Now, I don't know, there have been times when I know that I have not paid attention, I have not listened properly. I have 3 children, and I know that they, at times, do not listen, and I have proof of this. Last week, I go down to put something in the freezer, and I open up the freezer, and there are 3 rolls of toilet paper in a plastic bag in the freezer. And I thought, as soon as I saw it, I thought, I know who did this. He shall go unnamed, Brock. So I went and asked him, and he absolutely denied it. And I went and asked my other son, Dylan, and he absolutely denied it. So the reason I can tell this story, and at this part of the story I usually get permission from my kids or from my wife in order, before I say something in front of other people, just so that they know that I'm going to be talking about them and they can stay home or whatever. And Brock's not here today, so there you go. But neither of them remembers doing that. And this reminded me of another story where I knew Brock was the culprit. We asked him to go take some carrots downstairs and put them in the fridge. 2 bags of fresh, homegrown carrots. And a week later we want to go get some. They're not in the fridge. Well, where are they? They're in the freezer. Yeah, oh. And frozen carrots, they're not carrots anymore. They're pretty much useless. And Brock eventually did confess up to, because we knew he'd asked him to do it. But he heard carrots downstairs, and I don't know what he thought after that. So he just kind of, well, I guess I could put them there in the freezer. And that's what he did. We have a tough time listening sometimes. So there's some questions that come out of Proverbs 27. Question 1. Who are you listening to? Who are you listening to? There's some verses that I want to look at. And I've kind of gone through and picked a few verses that kind of highlight different ideas. So verse 6 says this. The wounds from a sincere friend are better than many kisses from an enemy. Or in another version it says, the wounds from a lover are worth it. Kisses from an enemy do you in. Verse 9. The heartfelt counsel of a friend is as sweet as perfume. And the last one. Get security from someone who guarantees a stranger's debt. Get a deposit if he does it to foreigners. Basically what that's saying is be careful who you go into business with. These verses are talking about different voices that we hear in our lives. Friends, enemies, partners, employers, employees. And the question that I have is, whose voice are you listening to? Who do we give time for and credence to in our minds as we're thinking through things? And we all have people, whether they're living or dead, that are constantly influencing us. They might be parents or spouses, children, teachers, pastors, authors, friends. There are any number of people whose voices we have allowed to reign supreme in our hearts and minds. And we have to ask ourselves, what are those voices saying to us? What are they saying? So the first question is, who are you listening to? And that leads us to the second question, which is, where is God in the mix? Now, God's not mentioned in any of these verses, but there is someone talking to us, and we've heard about her in the last few weeks, and you're going to be hearing more about her in the next few weeks, and that is the wise woman of Proverbs. Her voice comes through all over this book. And in this chapter, verse 11, it says this: "Be wise, my child, and make my heart glad. Then I will be able to answer my critics." She is giving out wisdom, not only in this proverb, but through many of the proverbs. Who is this wise woman? Well, we know, ultimately, it's God. God is the one who's behind it. God is the source of wisdom. But the question is, where is he in our mix? Where is he in your mix? In the mix of voices that influence you, is he even in there? And what place does he have? Are we actually listening to God? Does he ever have a say in the things that go on around us, in the decisions and the actions that we have from day to day? Does he have a say in our responses to tragedy? Maybe in our disbelief as to what we see in the news these days? Does he have anything to say about the status of our friends, of our family, of our kids, the neediness, the hurt and the brokenness that we see around us, and that we feel in our own lives as well? Does he have anything to do with that? In the last few months, one of the things that I've heard Joe talking about, I think he's been drilling home week after week, is this: do you believe that God is real? Do you believe that God is who he says he is? And if so, then you have to let him into what is going on throughout all your life. If God is really real, if he is who he says he is, you have to let him in. You need to listen to him, because he is all-knowing. He loves us. He knows what's best for us. If that's the case, then we need to let him in. And God is not mean. He's not short-sighted. He's not demanding like we are when we're dealing with relationships. He is gentle. He is good for our souls. His yoke is easy, and his burden is light. But we have the choice of listening to him instead of all the other voices that are rattling around in our heads, all those other voices that we're allowing to influence us. Now, some of those voices that we hear are going to be influencing us for the good, and some not so, of course. But that kind of leads us to the third question, and that's this: what do you believe about what you're hearing? What do you believe about what you're hearing? Verse 7 says this: a person who refuses honey, or is full, a person who is full refuses honey, but even bitter food tastes sweet. Next one. As a face is reflected in water, so the heart reflects the real person. And the last one: a loud and cheerful greeting early in the morning will be taken as a curse. Amen to that, right? What do you believe about what you're hearing? I'm not a morning person. And those of you who know me even a little bit will know that. My wife is not a morning person, but only because I have had amazing influence in her life in that way. But there have been times when my natural non-morning person world, and she used to be a morning person, those worlds have collided, and that's not good. And we had to figure out what the best thing is to do in that situation, which of course is coffee. And that solves at least some of the problems. The action of figuring out what you believe and don't believe is called discerning. Discerning is making a decision about what you believe. And this is part of what it means to grow up. We need to grow up. This is what the wise woman of Proverbs is calling us to do ultimately, is to grow up. We have to decide to put away anger and insincerity and slander and cruelty. We need to put away our pride and our masks and our ego. We need to put that aside. The wisdom is in choosing differently than those ideas. Choosing differently other than what we have been choosing. And it is never too late to grow up. It is never too early to grow up. We need to grow up. We need to decide. And what does growing up look like in the real, everyday world? It's a legitimate question, I think. What can be the end result if we listen and if we discern? Well, there are many things that can happen, obviously. But I want to focus on one that, as time goes on, just seems to be more and more relevant, at least to me. And that is the idea of kindness. One of the ways that that wisdom enters the world, our everyday world, is through kindness. We've heard lots of stuff in the news lately. We hear about Dallas. We've heard about that Black Lives Matter, and that Blue Lives Matter, and that all lives matter. We've heard all these things. And when those things are coming out, there seems to be an immediate response that picks apart the stance that has just been taken. That people are not willing, something doesn't sit right, even with a statement that's, at least to me, seems to be fairly solid. Now, that might be my naivety. I'm totally willing to accept that. But it seems like people are complaining about what is being said because it's not said in exactly the right way. I think that we just need to stop and listen to ourselves. What are we saying with all these words? Instead, we need to do something. We need to be kind to each other. You're not going to be able to do anything physically from here about what's going on in Dallas, about what's going on in Nice, France, about what's going on in Istanbul, and a million other places around the planet. But there is something that you can do in Saskatoon. There is something that you can do here today, and that is to be kind. To be kind to the people around you, to be kind to yourself. Sometimes that's the toughest one to do, to wrap our heads around, is that we need to we hold ourselves up as to such a higher level than we do to anyone else, and we're hard on ourselves. And for some of you this morning, you need to give yourself a break and be kind to yourself. We need to be kind to the people who are the hardest to be kind to, which is the people that are around us, the people that we see every day. You can be kind in your house. You can be kind to your neighbors on your block. You can spread your kindness at work. You can spread kindness at school. And you can accept kindness from other people. Because we all need kindness. We all need it. This is what we need. This is what the world needs. And we need it so badly. It's something I want you to watch.
Did you get into a fight again? Don't bother helping other people. You just mind your own business.
I am the sum of my moments. Everything I've experienced, everything I've been taught, makes me who I am today.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
My phone! How dare you? Is this your first day at work? Is this how you serve a customer? Look what you're doing! Go get your manager out! Go!
So, what happened?
And who are you? Are you the manager here?
No, she didn't do it on purpose, and I'm sure she's sorry about it.
My phone is damaged because of her. This is my problem, not your problem. Why don't you just get lost?
I'm going to punch you then, you know. You just mind your own business. When will you ever learn?
Go away! Mind your own business!
Sir, I think you need to calm down.
Yeah, sir. Can you settle this calmly?
You see it right. I'm sorry.
We are the sum of our moments. And when our moments of kindness overcome our doubts, we can be greater and more beautiful. Kindness, it's up to us. Kindness, it's up to us.
Takes some courage to be kind sometimes. It's hard to do. It's one of those things that we understand it. We know what to do, but the kindness comes in the doing. So we need to listen. And as we listen, as we get God in the mix and listen to his voice, we're going to grow up. And there's so many things that are good that will come from our lives. And you can fill in the blank. If you don't want to talk about kindness, you can talk about anything. There's so many good things that will come out of your growing up into Jesus, growing up and becoming more mature and becoming the person that God really wants you to be. Kindness is one of those things. And kindness is something that, we all need. The world needs. Here's a quote to end off from Frederick Buechner. He said, "Listen to your life. See it for the fathomless mystery it is, in the boredom and pain of it, no less than in the excitement and gladness. Touch, taste, smell your way to the holy and hidden heart of it, because in the last analysis, all moments are key moments, and life itself is grace." God, we need you. We need kindness. We need you to help us. We need to hear your voice and listen to it and obey it and follow it, like sheep follow the shepherd's voice. And God, may you grow in us the things that we need to reach out and help other people with love and kindness and compassion. Amen. Thanks for coming today. If you need prayer, there's going to be some people up at the side who are willing to pray for you. Find a place that you can be kind this week. Thanks.